Good morning, students. This is Srikanth signing in for contracts 1. So we are seeing the meaning of the term offer, right? So remember, every offer cannot be made a contract. Every offer cannot be made a contract. An offer to be valid and enforceable, certain conditions are to be satisfied. So yesterday, previously, we are analyzing certain conditions and try to analyzing those conditions. First one is offer may be express or implied. Second one, it must create legal relations. Number 3, terms must be certain or clear. Number 4, it may be specific or public. Number 5, offer and invitation to offer. Number 6, it must be communicated to offeree. So, unless and until the following conditions are satisfied, there cannot be an effective and valid offer so that it is enforceable. That means anybody may give any offer, any person can accept that offer. That does not mean that once a person gives an offer and other person accepts that offer, a contract will come into picture. There are certain essential conditions for a contract. There are certain essential conditions for a valid offer. Unless and until these conditions are satisfied, you cannot call it as a valid offer. So yesterday we have seen that offer may be express or implied. Express offer means in writing. Implied offer means by the conduct of the parties. Even offer may be oral or written. So next one is it must create legal obligations or legal relations. Unless and until the contract creates legal relations, it cannot be called as a contract. An offer to be enforceable, it must create legal relations. Remember, an offer to be enforceable, it must create legal relations. An offer for social or moral act or for moral conduct is no offer. For example, A invites B for lunch and fail to arrange the same. So, B cannot sue A. Why? It does not create legal obligations. So, in this connection, yesterday we have seen a case law Balfour versus Balfour. Let us analyze, let us go into some deeper understanding of this case law. So, as a law students, we have to analyze the case law with a little bit deeper understanding. Let's go into the facts of the case. In fact, it's a landmark case. This case law, which has been held in 1919, Balfour versus Balfour, in fact, it gave birth to the purpose to create legal relations theory in the contract law. First time this concept of legal relations has been emerged in this case law. In a dispute between husband and wife, Lord Justice Atkin said that domestic commitments were not within the jurisdiction of contract law. This was first held. Lord Justice Atkin said that domestic commitments were not within the jurisdiction of the contract law. In fact, what is the main point in that contract or promises? If contracts are a promise, are they legally enforceable? Let us see the facts of the case. In fact, Mr. Balfour, he was a civil engineer and worked for the government as the director of irrigation in Ceylon. Ceylon is now called as Sri Lanka. So now Mrs. Balfour was living with him. In 1915, what happens is they both came to England. Why? Mr. Balfour got some holiday, so they both came to England. In England, Mrs. Balfour had developed rheumatic arthritis. It's a disease pertaining to bones. Now, what happens? Her doctor advised her to stay in England. Why? That maybe her health may deteriorate in Sri Lanka. So, it would be detrimental to her health. Now, on the advice of doctor, Mrs. Balfour accepted to stay in England. Now, Mr. Balfour again he wants to come back to Ceylon for his work. While he was coming, he promised Mrs. Balfour £30 a month until she will return back to Ceylon, that is Sri Lanka. Now, what happens is they drifted apart, and Mr. Balfour he was sending the amount. Subsequently, due to some misunderstanding, he stopped to send the monthly payments. Now, Mrs. Balfour filed a case in the court of the law and she got a decree. Remember, she got a decree. Lower court has given the judgment in favor of Mrs. Balfour. Now, normally if you file a case in a court, civil court, suit will be decreed. Decree and judgment will be given by the court. Now the issues involved, now subsequently what happens, wife, that is Mrs. Balfour, got decree in her favor. Now Mr. Balfour has challenged that judgment in the appellate court. That means he went for appeal. Once again, I am reiterating the facts. Mr. Balfour was working as a civil servant in Ceylon and he was living with his wife, Mrs. Balfour. When they both came to England, subsequently, wife got developed rheumatic arthritis. Doctors advised her to stay back in England. Now, Mr. Balfour, while he was coming back for job, he promised his wife to pay monthly £30. Subsequently, for some time, he was sending the same. But subsequently, what happens is their relationship was soured. Soured means it has become bad, and Mr. Balfour has stopped sending the amount. Now, the wife filed a suit in the court of law for £30, and the court gave a decree in judgment of whom? Wife. Wife got the decree. Now, the issues involved in Balfour versus Balfour case was the contract between Mr. and Mrs. Balfour valid in nature or not. The person, that is the appellant, Mr. Balfour contention was that the promise made by me to provide monthly expenses to my wife was a domestic agreement and not a legal agreement. So, there is no intention to create a legal agreement. This is what husband is telling. Now, wife is telling that he has to give me £30 every month as per his promise. Now, the court held that agreement was purely social and domestic in nature and characteristic, and therefore it was presumed that parties did not intend to be legally bound. So let us analyze judgment of the case. Lower court gave judgment in the favor of the plaintiff, that is wife, and held that husband's promise to send money was enforceable. Lower court said. The court held that Mrs. Balfour's consent was sufficient consideration to render the contract enforceable. And against this judgment, husband filed an appeal. Now, in appeal, the appellate court said it is essential that both the parties should intend that an agreement be legally binding. The courts will not interfere between the spouses in their day to day affairs. Ultimately, the conclusion of the court is at common law, a contract is not enforceable unless the parties intended the contract to create legal relations. Whether or not the parties intended to create legal relations is determined accurately by examining the circumstances existing at the time of execution of the contract. Remember, whether or not the parties intend to create legal relationship determined when by examining the circumstances existing at the time of execution of the contract. Whether the promise made or not, it is between the parties to uphold it to their fullest potential. The parties cannot enforce, and the judges who had made the decisions concluded that the court cannot come into marital affairs and it is up to their full knowledge for solving their own problem. The Balfour Law gave a new perspective to the contract validation. You understand? So, unless and until the offer or contract creates a legal relationship, it is not enforceable. This is the first time held in Balfour versus Balfour case. Lower court, Mrs. Balfour wife got judgment in her favor. Subsequently, the judgment was reversed in the appellate court, telling that the intention to create legal relationship is determined by examining the circumstances existing at the time of execution of the contract. So, this Balfour Law gave a new perspective to the contract validation. It has opened a new window to the contract law. Now, I think you understand, unless and until there is an intention to create legal relationship and there exists legal relationship, it is unenforceable. This was being said in Balfour versus Balfour case. This case law is very important from the examination point of view, right? I think you understood the facts and judgments of the case. Number third point is the terms must be clear and certain. The terms of the offer must be clear and certain. Clear, certain, unambiguous, and must not be vague. Section 29 of the Contract Act says an agreement the meaning of which is uncertain or capable of being made certain or void. So, when you are making an offer, the terms of the offer must be clear, certain, without any ambiguity, and it must not be vague. Let us take an example. A agrees to sell to B 100 tons of oil. Right. No fact, it is an offer and there is an agreement. However, here there is nothing whatever to show that what kind of oil was intended. Coconut oil, gingerly oil, rice rich oil, whatever it may be. So now the agreement is void for uncertainty. Agreement is void for uncertainty. Why? The terms are not clear and certain. So unless and until the terms are clear and certain, there cannot emerge an contract, there cannot emerge enforceability. We have seen one case law, Taylor versus Portington. Here one person promised to take another person's house for lease for a period of 3 years. He said, assume that A is there, B is there. A is telling to B, I am going to take your house for lease for 3 years, but you have to repair the house and you have to decorate the house according to the present style, he said. Now, this agreement was held to be not enforceable. Why? The since terms are too vague and uncertain. Present style means which style it is not specifically mentioned. So, unless and until terms must be clear and certain, offer is unenforceable. Now, the offer may be specific or public. Remember, when an offer is made to a person or group of persons, it is called specific offer. When an offer is made to a person or group of persons, it is called specific offer. Specifically, you are making that offer to one person or group of persons. If it is made to the public in general or society or community as a whole, it is called public offer. Remember, you can make an offer either specific offer or public offer. The specific offer can be accepted to whom it was made. Remember, the general offer can be accepted by any person. Now, offer may be specific or public. So, when an offer is made to a person or group of persons, it is called specific offer, and if it is made to the public in general or society or community as a whole, it is called as a public offer. The specific offer has to be accepted by the person to whom it was made. General offer can be accepted by any person, remember. So, for example, if you go to a shopping mall, they will display the price list. It's a general offer. Anybody, by accepting that price list, they can enter into the shop, they can purchase whatever the goods they may intended to purchase. So, it is a general offer. General offer means offer is open to all. Any person can accept their offer and he can act upon that offer. The famous case law is Carlyle versus Carbolic Smoke Ball Company. Carlyle versus Carbolic Smoke Ball Company. We will see what it is. Yeah, let us analyze this Carlyle versus Carbolic Smoke Ball Company. Here, one company was making a product called smoke ball. It's a product. The company is telling that this ball can be used to cure influenza and many other diseases. At that time, flu was prevailing. Flu means cold. So, the company said that the ball is filled with carbolic acid, and if you insert this tube in one of your nostril, then this gas enters your respiratory tract and it will eliminate the virus. The company is manufacturing a product called smoke ball. It is telling that anybody who uses this smoke ball will be cured of their respiratory tract infection and the virus. It has published one advertisement in the newspaper telling that if you use this smoke ball and still if you get the flu, that is cold, we will pay you $100. Even after using this smoke ball, if any person gets the cold, then we will give you $100. This has been published in the advertisement. Now, on the basis of this advertisement, one person, namely Louisa Carlyle, she bought this smoke ball. She has purchased one packet and used it thrice every day. But even though by using this smoke ball, she had an attack of influenza. Now, her husband wrote a letter to the company stating that even by using your smoke ball, my wife got cold in influenza. Please pay us $100 as per your promise in the advertisement. The company refused to pay. Now they went to the court. Subsequently, the company argued that we have published in the advertisement, it is only a gimmick to get our business, and we have not made any offer to anybody. Now the judges held that the advertisement was a unilateral offer to the entire world. The satisfying conditions for using the smoke ball constituted acceptance of the offer. By using the smoke ball, Carlyle has accepted your offer. That purchasing or merely using the smoke ball constituted good consideration. You understand? So, the court held that advertisement was a unilateral offer to the entire world. By purchasing the smoke ball, it itself constitutes acceptance of the offer, and purchasing or using the smoke ball itself constituted good consideration. In fact, the advertisement was an offer to the world. Whole world, anybody can accept that advertisement. Communication of acceptance here, it is not necessary for a contract when people's conduct manifestly creates an intention to contract. So ultimately the court concluded that this is the most frequently cited case in the common law of the contract, particularly where unilateral contracts are concerned. Now, understand that offer may be general or public, or it may be specific. By acting upon the public offer, anybody does anything, it constitutes an offer, and subsequently offerer would be bound by his terms and condition. It has been said in the Carlyle versus Carbolic Smoke Ball Company, and this is a case law which is important from your examination point of view. Yeah, good day students. This is Srikanth signing off today.